Hey everybody, it's right up noon. How are you? It's Tony. It's time for Tony Makes Lunch. It's Friday. It's Connecticut. It's not snowing today. It's raining. Hooray, it's raining. Say hello to my special guest cameraman, Garrett. Say hello, Garrett.
Hi everybody.
Jen's out of town, so Garrett came over today to help me out.
Sorry I'm not Linda Cohn.
He's not Linda Cohn. He's not Jennifer. They are both much better looking, but that's okay. So yesterday, Garrett and I were texting back and forth about what we wanted to make. And Garrett said, how about a banh mi? And I was like, I love banh mi's. And then I said, how about a po' boy? Because I love po' boys too. And then I thought, what if we mash up a banh mi and a po' boy? So if you don't know what a banh mi is, it's a very famous Vietnamese sandwich. So it's usually roast pork over some sort of pate, but it's got these great pickled vegetables. And that's what set me off. Because out of the whole banh mi, I love the pickled vegetables and the crusty bread. The most. So, and then a po' boy, if you've ever been to New Orleans, is the famous New Orleans sandwich. There's two sandwiches down there. The muffaletta, which is an Italian sandwich with a great olive and caper and artichoke kind of spread on the bottom. Garrett doesn't like olives, so I wasn't doing olives. And then the po' boy, which is usually a piece of, whether it's fried fish or shrimp or crab or oysters, or at Mother's, which was the first place I ever had a po' boy, upon the recommendation of a very good friend who lives in New Orleans. They make a po' boy, they roast their own turkey and ham every day, and they make a po' boy with what they call debris. So when the turkey and ham is on the slicer, all the stuff that falls down, they take and they kind of mix together, and then they spread debris on crusty French bread with, and in New Orleans, when you get your po' boy, you get it dressed, and it comes dressed with just simple cabbage. Cabbage, maybe a slice of tomato, and some mayo. So I love crispy cabbage. I love pickled vegetables. So we're going to get going, make it a banh mi. If you're out there watching, you have questions, ask away. Garrett's going to try to keep track. So the first thing we're going to do is pickle up some vegetables. Hold on, I put it on the wrong burner, of course. I've got pickle brine back there. I'll tell you what it is. So classic banh mi's got pickled carrots and daikon radish. I don't have daikon, but I do have onion, which I love. So this is just red onion, sliced really thin, as thin as I can get it, with a sharp, sharp knife. Right. We'll do about a half a red onion, or a third of a red onion, because there's only two of us. Joe Peralt, if you're watching from school, I'm going to make extra. Maybe Garrett will run some down to you, or you can come by later. If it was the three of us together, I'd make the whole thing. So there's an onion.
He better not be watching from school. He's teaching children.
He's not teaching children. He's on his lunch break.
Oh boy.
So this is your straight up English cucumber. I'm going to take off some of the peel. And then, hey, real easy trick, right? I want thin because I want this to pickle really fast. So I'm just going to keep peeling this down until I get to the seeds. You're going to make a little bit of a mess, I don't care.
So it sounds like a po' boy, you don't have to have specific ingredients.
No, you don't have to have specific ingredients for a po' boy. It's usually just any type of anything. It's the bread and the dressing, and you know, the po' boy was a sandwich made, the legend is, and I guess it's the truth, and this is just carrot, and I'm going to do the same thing with the carrot, right? I'm going to take the outer peel off, get that out of the way, and take off the little end like this, and I'm going to get that peeled up, and then we're going to turn to our fish and start that. So the carrot goes like this, right? So I could try to slice this on a mandolin, and it would probably take my fingers off, maybe, but if I just hit it with a vegetable peeler.
So for all of you Catholics celebrating Lent,
there you go.
Mom, we have got a Friday fish
fry
sandwich for you.
Only better, right? And then we do carrots on top, and I think my bowl is a little small, but that's okay. We'll manage, right? So you got carrots, onions, celery, and this is quick pickle brine. So this in here is straight up white vinegar, red pepper, because I can't not have everything spicy.
It's regular white vinegar.
Regular white vinegar. Crushed red pepper out of a jar, kosher salt out of a box, a couple of tablespoons, so it's probably a cup and a half, 2 cups of white vinegar, a couple of tablespoons of salt.
You brought that to a boil?
Brought that to a boil. A big squirt of honey because you want a little bit of sweet. And then you just pour it over the vegetables. We're just going to let them sit. And by the time the sandwich is done, they're going to taste like pickles and they're going to be great. I'm going to save these for snacks for the puppies because they love carrots. Right, Archie? Archie's down by my
So
feet.
pickling doesn't take something that you put in a jar for weeks and
No.
weeks.
Pickling is really fast and easy if you do it hot. All right, so the fish. If we were in New Orleans, this would probably be catfish. Catfish can be a little bit muddy. This is red snapper. I'm not even going to skin it. I'm just going to score the skin a little bit so that when we fry it, it doesn't curl up. You need a little score. So just cutting through the skin, and then I'm going to slice it into portions. I'll do 4 like that. And then over here's some I prepared earlier. This is buttermilk. So if you're making southern fried chicken, you would soak it in buttermilk. So we're just going to soak these in buttermilk for a couple of minutes now. Snapper's really light and delicate. It's going to fry really quickly. The buttermilk is going to, again, I misjudged the size. That's because Joe is supposed to be here. Joe, just take a personal day from school. I think Mr. Romeo, your principal, would totally let you off the hook for coming over for an hour and having lunch. So that fish is just going to sit. The pickles are all made.
Doesn't have to sit long?
Doesn't have to sit long. We're just going to let it sit for a few minutes. We're going to put bread in the oven so it gets toasty.
If
And
you
then,
don't have red snapper,
if you don't have red snapper, you could use flounder, you could use cod, you could use haddock, you could use pollock. As long as it's fresh, it's going to stick together, right? It's not going to all fall apart. You could use catfish if you like. I'm just not a huge catfish fan. You're not going to use meaty, oily fish. So
For
no
example?
salmon, no tuna, not really a swordfish kind of preparation. Something light. You want it light that's going to, just cook up quick. It's going to take to frying really well. It's going to stay crispy. And then we're just going to do slaw. So we've done slaw a lot. You can tell I like cabbage because it's crunchy and it's good for you. And it's delicious. So this is just thinly sliced cabbage. Anybody out there watching have questions? Not yet?
few people watching, but no questions yet.
Okay.
How long could that sit in the buttermilk?
That could sit in the buttermilk for, I would say, up to maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe in the fridge. Buttermilk's, so buttermilk is cultured, so it's got a little acid to it. So after a while, it's going to start to break down the fish, and it's going to get a little mushy. But buttermilk is what they usually soak fried chicken in. So it imparts some flavor. It tenderizes a little bit. It will pull out some fishiness if you have a fishy fish. Like I wouldn't use bluefish in this. All right, so cabbage. This is ginger, peeled. This is a microplane. Go to Bed Bath & Beyond, buy yourself a microplane, and go to the grocery store and buy yourself some ginger, and all you do is grate it. And look, you get fresh, like I know I chopped ginger the other day, but you can also just grate ginger, and it'll be delicious. And that, you just bang it, and it just dropped a big glob of about a tablespoon, half 2 teaspoons maybe of ginger. And this is a clove of garlic, and it's the same thing, right on the microplane. Right over the top. And we're going to make our little crispy slaw. I don't want that big piece of garlic. Give it a tap. And magically delicious. And then, when I did, a couple weeks ago, when I did that curry, I pulled out my fish sauce, that noodle soup. So go back and get the update on fish sauce. But this is fish sauce, made from fish. Salty and briny.
Would you say that was about a tablespoon or
That was
so?
probably a tablespoon and a little bit more. This is apple cider vinegar. If I had rice vinegar, I would use that, but I don't. This is a little bit of soy sauce, just a dab, because I want that umami depth of flavor. And then, oh, you know what? This is the cultured buttermilk that I used. And it's really thick, so I don't want a lot. I just want a little, like, tiny creamy. A little bit of creamy in there. We'll get a pair of tongs, and we're just going to toss that up. So, cabbage, Oh, you know what I forgot? I always forget something. This is sambal oelek, which is ginger garlic sauce, or chili garlic sauce, chili paste. You can find it in an Asian market. You can get it in the grocery store. It's nice and spicy. Like I said, everything's got to be spicy here on Fridays. It's what keeps us happy. So there you go. There's your slaw.
So anybody that might not be real familiar with frying.
Frying. All right, yeah, we're gonna fry. We're gonna get that ready now. So
What are some basic do's and don'ts of frying, or if
Right.
anybody's worried that it just
I
is very
can't fry
fattening?
because All right. The oil is the most important part, and it's got to be the right temperature. So this has been heating on medium for a while now, for like 20 minutes, and I could just feel from my hand. If you took if you need to test it, you'll know when we put the fish in, you'll see it bubble right, or you can put a little piece of crust of bread in there, and it'll sizzle. And you know what? It's just trial and error. If the oil's too low, Erin Ball, I'm talking to your husband right now. If you don't heat up your pans enough and you try to fry things, they'll turn out oily and greasy because they'll just absorb all the oil will just absorb right into whatever you're trying to cook. So in here is just regular all-purpose flour. That's equal parts flour and coarse cornmeal, polenta, or you use regular cornmeal. About a cup each, right? I'm just going to put a little bit. That's baking soda because we want some lift. And this is baking powder, because we want them both. The baking soda will react with the acid in the buttermilk, and the baking powder will react with the heat, and they'll both make our little breading here nice and light and fluffy. And then this is, because I didn't put any salt in this, and this is very bland, right? So that's chili powder, paprika, smoked paprika, and garlic powder, right? It's a little spice rub that I use all the time, and I mix it up in big batches, and I keep it in a jar, and I use it for just about everything. When I'm making barbecue, I'll add some cumin and brown sugar to it as a barbecue coating. When I'm making chicken, I'll just sprinkle it over the top, but it's got a little bit of smoke and a little bit of heat and a lot of flavor, so we're going to put, that's like 2 tablespoons of that, and then I'm just going to use my hands. We're going to mix up the flour. You want the flour because it's going to give you a coating. You want the cornmeal because it's going to give you crunch. You want the spices because it's going to give you flavor. That's all you need. You just need a tray. And then we're going to bread. People are afraid of breading, and it's because your hands get all messy. But there's a secret, and you learn this in the Italian household on Christmas Eve when you got to bread all the fish to fry it. This is now my wet hand. This is now my dry hand, and never the twain shall meet. And if you use a big enough bowl and enough breading mix, like I don't need all of this to make all this fish, but if I use a big enough bowl and enough breading, I can get it done without, having to slap stuff around and make a big mess. It has room, and it's just a light coating, just to toss in each one. Yes, I can do that left-handed. Imagine that. I wouldn't have given it up. And we're just leaving the buttermilk on, and we're tossing it in our little crispy coating. That one missed a little bit, so we're going to add a little bit more. One more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do 6 pieces for me and Garrett. Joe, there's some pieces waiting here for you, buddy, if you're watching. I'll make you one later. Come on over when you're done with school. Both our wives are traveling, Joe's and mine. Jen and Nora are away for the weekend at a conference for the nutrition program that Jen and I coach on, and this is not program friendly, but Garrett's here, so, and the wives are away, the boys will play, so we're doing this.
We're anti-cleansing.
Anti-cleansing, but it's delicious, and it's snowing outside, and we want to eat this. So here we go. We're gonna fry. Ready? And it's gonna be real easy. We're gonna put our first batch in. Look, we're just gonna test. See the sizzle? You lean it away from you. These are only going to take a minute each.
What temperature is that oil at?
That oil, if I had to guess, and I don't have a thermometer, I would say is about 350, 375. And we're not going to overcrowd it because we don't want the temperature of the oil to drop too much, too quickly. We're just going to leave it there for a second while that's going. I'm going to make a little fun spread over here. So, that sambal olek that we had before, that spicy garlic paste. Another clove of garlic, because you can never have too much garlic. That we're going to do on the microplane. Sorry if that's in the way. So see that? That's probably a teaspoon of granulated garlic. And then this is just straight up mayo. You could use Greek yogurt for this. You could use nothing. You could use an avocado if you wanted, if you're not doing mayo. But I want this kind of loose. And then you know what I'm going to do? A little secret ingredient. And take some of the pickle brine. I'm just going to add that too. So I want this to be really wet, like a sauce almost, like you could dip it if you wanted to. And that's our dipping sauce. We're going to come back over to the fish. We're going to give them a flip because I can hear that they're done. They're going to get on one side. Look at that. Perfectly golden brown. Got all that yummy spice on it. Getting a nice crust. It's not absorbing any oil. Like if I measured out the oil at the beginning and the end, it would be about exactly the same amount. So, let's review. We've got fish frying. We've got pickled vegetables, which are simply an onion, a carrot, and a English cucumber peeled on a vegetable, just put through a vegetable slicer. I'm going to wipe up the blob on the counter. Put through a vegetable slicer, and then they are being pickled in. I brought 2 cups of white vinegar, a couple tablespoons of salt, a couple squirts of honey, and a bunch of red hot pepper flakes to a boil, and just poured it over the top. And those are pickling, and I'm going to taste one because I'm going to tell you, you're not going to believe it. They've been sitting for about 7, 8, 10 minutes. It tastes like put them down in the basement in the spring and are eating them in the fall. They're delicious. This is our slaw. Oh, and they're spicy. This is our slaw. So this is regular cabbage sliced thin, a little bit of fish sauce, a little bit more of that sambal olek for heat, just a dab of soy sauce, some apple cider vinegar. I didn't even put salt and pepper on it, but that's all it needs. And that's going to be the cabbage portion. So our po' boy would normally have just shredded cabbage. We're doing slaw. Our banh mi would have pickled vegetables. We're doing pickled vegetables. Garrett's upset because I didn't bring cilantro, but I don't like cilantro. He does. I'm one of those types of people for whom cilantro tastes like soap, so it's not my favorite. So I don't need it.
So there's a lot of crunch in this sandwich.
There's a lot of crunch in the sandwich, and then we got a nice crusty piece of bread. All right, so this fish should be done. Let me turn up the heat a little bit. So we're going to take it out. We're going to remove it to a paper towel.
Any way of telling how the fish is done?
You can crack it, and you can see that it's nice and flaking out inside. And that will keep cooking a little bit. So I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit because this oil's a little colder now. I'm going to do these other 3 like this. Right, that oil needs to get a little hotter now. I could tell when I put that in that I didn't get the same reaction, the same bubbliness that I did in the first batch because my oil got cold. So I just cranked up the heat a little bit. I'm going to give it a second. I'm going to get out the bread. So your standard loaf of French bread. Sometimes you got to go with, with the old standbys. So we're going to take some bread. We're going to have a bread knife. I'm going to take off, I don't know, 1 for me, 1 for Garrett, 1 for Joe. Joe, where are you, Joe? You should be here.
Educating America's youth.
Educating America's youth. Oh, what I forgot to do. So when that fish came out of the fryer, I'm going to hit it with a little more. This is when you can put salt and pepper on. It will absorb it. So that was just that little spice mix that we made. So garlic powder, paprika, smoked paprika, a little chili powder. All right, this should be hot enough to take these other 2 pieces of fish. Yeah, see, that's what I wanted. I wanted a big whoosh when it goes in, because that means my oil's hot enough and is going to fry up crispy and not be greasy. So those need 2 minutes aside.
So Lynn's story says we're supposed to call this the po me sandwich.
It's the po me sandwich, right? A po boy met a bond me, they fell in love, and they had a baby, and it was called the po me sandwich. So we're just going to take...
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn. Look, I'm going to pull out the middles. We'll save those for later too. We'll make breadcrumbs out of them for mac and cheese someday, or to throw in meatballs. But we don't want the sandwich to be too bready. We like the bread holds it all together, but a big, soft loaf of French bread is gonna overwhelm. And then we got our, where's the bottom? That's the bottom. So this is our little sambal mayo, right? So it's mayonnaise, sambal olek, which sambal olek if you're joining late, garlic, chili garlic paste, a little bit of the pickled vegetable brine. We'll go through that in a second.
In a fancy restaurant, they'd call that an aioli.
They'd call that an aioli, and they'd charge you an extra $1. I don't charge you anything. It's free. Tony makes lunch. Now we're going to put our cabbage down. When you come over here, we're going to flip this batch of fish because I can hear that it's done. Like the bubbles have subsided a little bit. And so that tells me that we're about ready to flip. Look at that.
Water's cooking out.
Water's cooking out. Steam is cooking out. I'm going to take these while those fry. We're going to put these on top. So look. 1, 2. Oh, look, I could probably gotten away with 3. 3 pieces. Right, that one fell off, so I'm going to, eat it. It's delicious. It's crunchy. The fish is just perfectly cooked, juicy. It's spicy. It's got some flavor to it. It doesn't taste like you're just eating a mouthful of breading. And then, top it all off, our pickled vegetables. So there's some carrots. I'm going to dive in with my fingers. I'm going to get some pickled cucumbers.
So a lot of people make sandwiches in the morning and then head out the door. What are some ideas of for people to make sandwiches that will just help create an extra little punch of flavor to your...
Yes, I bring sandwiches to work a lot, and I do a lot of this. So I put a lot of pickled vegetables. If I don't have pickled vegetables, I'll take a sturdy green like kale and dress it with oil and vinegar, salt and pepper, just because you want moisture and that crunch, so you don't have to rely too much on anything like on mayo or mustard or anything that's going to go bad. I actually think sandwiches taste better the day after. It's almost like soup. If you put them all together and wrap them up tight, they're going to like marinate together and you're going to get this big. That's how they sell the other famous New Orleans sandwich, the muffaletta. They make them in the morning. They wrap them up tight in cellophane. And it kind of squishes all the meat, so it's all the Italian meats and cheeses and this awesome muffaletta sauce, which is olives and capers and artichoke hearts. And it just mushes it all together, and it becomes this, one solid piece of yumminess. All right, this fish is done. Joe, this is yours for when you're done with school. Come on over, and I'll make you one. Unless Garrett and I eat it all. So those just came out. We're adding a little spice. We're adding a little salt, because now's the time to season them. We're going to shut that off. Here we go. So we've got our lovely spread. We've got our pickled vegetables. We've got our cabbage slaw. We're going to do a little bit of drizzle of that on top, just for looks. Oops, I'm going to throw that on the floor. Sorry about that. I'm going to re-top it.
Don't eat that, Archie.
Earl Hillard. And we're going to cut it in half. One's for me, one's for G. Look at that crunch. The po me, ladies and gentlemen. It's 12:25. I'm done. I gotta eat this, and then I have a conference call at 1 o'clock. So thanks for tuning in. We'll post the recipe this weekend. We'll take some pictures. We'll put them up. Hope you enjoyed it. Come on back next week. Bye.